Whether you're the kind of person who draws or whether you're good enough to even try, I want to talk about something while we draw, something your brain does, something it's probably doing right now actually, while your brain quietly decides if you're allowed to be here. Grab a drink, get comfortable. We're drawing it out today with Ohuhu markers, and you're very welcome to just exist here with me for a bit. Your brain is very good at lying to you, and today I want to talk about that. When I was in my Twitch live feed, literally yesterday, while I was drawing someone's cat commission, we were having a chat about imposter syndrome, and it's something I felt actually was probably quite an important thing to share, because I know how many of you out there also suffer from imposter syndrome. Here's actually what it is. It's a persistent, annoying internal belief that you are not as capable or as talented, or maybe you don't feel that you're as deserving as other people perceive you to be. It's about a gap your brain has invented between who you actually are and who you think you're supposed to be. For people like me, for neurodivergent brains especially, it can get really complicated, because a lot of us have spent years, childhood, school, early adulthood, being measured against a standard that wasn't actually built for us, especially when we're late diagnosed. And when you fall short of a standard that was never designed specifically for your brain or how your brain works, you don't think that the standard is wrong. That's not how you're raised. You're sort of given this illusion that actually I am wrong. And that thought can get very loud, and it can get very, very convincing. So imposter syndrome doesn't happen overnight. It builds across years of criticism and comparison until it becomes a kind of background hum, a background noise, and we know how, as neurodivergents, how loud that background noise can get. It's a core belief that you fundamentally are not quite good enough, and no matter how amount of success seems to touch it, because the brain just consistently moves those goalposts. I have had various types of therapies over the last few years. A couple have really stuck, a couple have not really done much, but I wanted to share with you my experience, because there's this one particular one that I did that actually I felt has helped a huge amount. It doesn't even pertain to imposter syndrome as such, but it does give you an insight to what our brains actually do to us. When it comes to imposter syndrome, I think confidence can have a huge amount to do with that. She did a lot of therapy through horses, and we watched a few horse videos. Sounds very strange, but actually it was very effective. And the premise was that this horse was too scared to walk over water. Always try and walk around, or it would stop completely, and it would never be able to walk through actual water. So she laid down like this blue looking tarp that would be very similar to what water looked like, and would try and train this horse to go over. What she was essentially saying was that the brain is giving this signal that we can't walk over, or we can't walk through this water. But physically, one leg can move in front of the other. We can physically walk. So if we can physically walk, and water isn't going to harm us, we actually can walk through the water. The only thing that's stopping us from walking through the water is our brain. So let's put this in a drawing perspective. You can actually draw. You can hold a pencil, a pen, a paintbrush, a marker, whatever art tool it is. It could even be a chisel or a sculpting tool. It doesn't have to just be this type of art. It can pertain to anything that you do in life. If you can physically hold a drawing implement tool in your hand, put that tool to paper and make a mark, you have actually physically drawn something. You've made a mark. You've put something down on paper that wasn't there before. So you can draw. Your brain says to you, but I can't draw as good as Joe Bloggs next to me. What I draw doesn't look like what they're drawing, because we've spent our life constantly being compared to everybody else next to us. But physically, you can draw. And at this point, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. If you watch my previous video, we discussed about using sketchbooks to be a lot freer with your sketching and to open up a little bit more with regards to what you can do to be creative without having to have this urgency and this need to have a final piece done. You wouldn't put this pressure on yourself from getting a plant from a garden centre. You know that plant needs time, love, water, feed, attention, trimming, all the things that it requires for it to be able to grow into this beautiful, healthy plant. You don't expect that to happen overnight. You expect to understand the things that you need to do to make that plant grow. And it's exactly the same with any skill set that you're trying to learn from the beginning. And this whole conversation with yourself of, I can physically do this. I do this a lot with my kid when he's struggling. I can't do that. Can you hold a knife in your hand? Can you hold a fork in your hand? Can you put your shoes on? Physically, yes, you can. Mentally, no, you might not be able to, because your brain is telling that you can't. But so you need to have this conversation. Name your brain something. I haven't named mine yet. I must do that. But name your brain something and have this conversation with your brain. Like, look, Charlie, you can tell me that I can't do this all you like, but I know that physically I can put one foot in front of the other and I can walk through that water. So you can't stop me anymore from doing that. And I think we can take that stance when it comes to imposter syndrome in life in general. Every single day, I'm here, talking about this as if I don't do this, but actually I do. Every single day I have imposter syndrome. I think, what am I doing here? My silly little business. I'm pretending to play shop. I'm pretending to be a vlogger. I'm pretending that I can make YouTube videos that people will want to sit and watch to the end, and they don't, and my brain goes, well, you must be shit at what you do because nobody watches to the end. Not, well, actually people have lives to get on with, and maybe they watched a little bit just to see what was involved and then thought, you know what, I'm going to watch that later. Nobody knows what's going on in other people's brains, and I guarantee you, if you sat in a big circle of like-minded people, every single person in that circle will have experienced, is experiencing, or will experience imposter syndrome, because you're definitely not alone. I don't think it gets discussed enough in detail with regards to how damaging imposter syndrome can be, and how, when sometimes we're told, just jump in feet first, how often the imposter syndrome can stop us from doing that. And if we want to evolve, if we want to change, if we want to grow, they can be really small steps. They don't have to be massive steps. They could be just you getting a sketchbook and filling a sketchbook in a year, doing a page a week, doing a page a day, whatever it is that you feel that you can do. I think it's worth us really now starting to take control of our brains and having these conversations with our Charlies, that actually shut the fuck up. I am capable, I am worthy, and I can do this. The biggest thing we do as imposter syndrome people is we compare ourselves to other people, but what we don't take into consider is how far along their journey they are. You can't compare yourself to somebody who's been doing art for the last 20 years, because they've experienced what their tools are capable of. They're experienced in the types of paper that they can use, the canvases that they paint on, what tools work with what materials, whether you can use water, oils, acrylics, whether pencils work better on textured paper or smooth paper. They have done the research already, and it doesn't matter how much tutorials and how much research you do, because we're all very good at that. When we start a new craft, we will research and we will buy all the tools and we will get everything we need before we've even made a start into thinking that maybe this is something that we could do and have fun doing. And then that's where the problem starts. because we put so much pressure on ourselves, it takes the fun out of it. It's in there. It just needs to be practiced, worked on, and experienced. Experience. I always get asked, how do you get so good at drawing? And the simple answer is very, very boring. Practice. You don't practice for perfection, because perfection doesn't exist in art. You practice to progress. You practice to progress. That, I think, first of all, changed my mindset a huge amount. And it really worked in the sense that I'm not striving for perfection, because there is no such thing. I am just striving to be better than the artist I was yesterday or last week. So the thing about imposter syndrome, and I don't think it really gets discussed thoroughly enough, is it doesn't just live in your career or hobby or choice of what you want to do. It literally follows you every bloody where. It's in everything that you won't start because you're not a real artist, you're not a real carpenter, you're not a real author. It's in the comments that you don't leave because who are you to have an opinion? It's in the constant compliments that you deflect, you shrug off because surely they're just being polite. Oh my God, am I guilty? I'm so guilty. I'm so bad at taking compliments, and I get really annoyed at myself actually, because I think it's so thoroughly important that we enjoy those compliments. People aren't just being polite. It's in the room that you don't speak up in. It's in the applications that you don't submit. It's in the competitions that you don't enter. It's in the answers that you don't give because you think you're going to be wrong. And it's in the community that you want to be in, but you don't feel like you've earned the right to be there yet. It's very good at finding new rooms to live in your brain. And for neurodivergent brains, there's this extra layer that our brains are actually wired to notice what is missing, which is why we're good pattern recognizers, rather than what's there. We hyper-focus on the flaws and the gaps and what's missing and what isn't right. And what we're good at kind of ends up becoming invisible. So imposter syndrome has this really, really good raw material to work with, and it really, really molds it so incredibly well. There is a researcher called Dr. Valerie Young who mapped out 5 types of imposter thinking. And when I found out this list while I was researching to do this talk today, I was like, oh, these are all just different flavors of the same lie. There's the perfectionist. Anything less than flawless is failure. That's me. The expert. You have to know everything before you're qualified to start. Sort of me. The soloist. Definitely me. Asking for help means that you're not capable. And also growing up in an environment where you just didn't ask for help. The natural genius. If it doesn't come easily, you must not be good at it. And there are a lot of natural geniuses out there. And the superhero, I hate that term. You have to outwork everyone just to prove you deserve to be there. And I am guilty of that. I will go above and beyond just to prove that I am worthy. And actually, that's shot me in the foot more times than it's actually worked. If you're in the same boat as me, you've probably lived in several of these at once, possibly all 5 at the same time on a Tuesday afternoon. Because the expert, that's why we research everything before we begin. That's why the 14 tutorials and the perfect marker set and the right sketchbook for a single line gets drawn. It isn't laziness. It's not procrastination for the fun of it. It's your brain telling you that you don't have permission yet. The other thing that was taught to me in my therapy was, is it fact or fiction? And again, this is something I use a lot with myself, my kids, and actually my friend, who's more of a self-doubter than I am. The basis of it is let's say, for example, you're in the car park and you're finishing work. This is just a very loose idea in my head. You're finishing work, you're walking to your car with a group of friends, and as you walk off, the 3 friends you've left behind start giggling and laughing and looking over at you. Your instant thought, tell me in the comments below what your instant thought is, because I know what mine would be. The joke's on me. Whatever they're talking about, the joke is on me. It must be horrible. It must be mean. Why would they be laughing about me behind my back? But then ask yourself this, is that fact or is that fiction? Yes, they're laughing, but you don't know what they're laughing at. Is it fact or fiction that they're laughing at you? You don't know, because unless you go and ask them, are you laughing at me? No, Benita, we had literally been talking about going to the pub, and then we remembered a really funny day that we had when you were there, and how funny it was because you did this for us. And you're thinking, shit, I thought crap about my friends because I didn't know whether it was fact or fiction, and I assumed the worst. And I think imposter syndrome sits in that quite well, because we often think that other people think the worst of us. We don't feel we are then worthy to be in their presence or be doing the same things that they're doing, because we would get laughed at. We're not capable of doing what they're doing because we're not good enough. We could actually be better than them for all we know. I used to have an artist friend who, I was talking about this again the other day in the live feed, who used to put me on this pedestal. This pedestal used to be so high, it used to make me feel quite height sick. Is that a thing? Height sick? Well, you know what I mean. And he would often say to me, you are better than most of the artists out there who are doing 5 times better than I am. And that used to really piss me off, because it made me realise that I am stuck in my own head, and the only person stopping me from going forward is me. And it's still to this point, and I've had my business for over 10 years, still to this point, I feel the same way. The only person that has stopped me being successful as I can be is me. I can't control how my family are going to be on a weekend that I'm supposed to be doing something. I can't control whether my husband's working on the weekends that actually I need to be getting stuff done or going to an event or doing stuff that will help move my business forward. I can't control that. But what I can control is what I do in those situations. Whether or not I decide that, right, okay, well, I can't do an event, so maybe let's do an event on my website. Let's do some admin work. Let's tidy up the website. Let's do some advertising. There's so many other things that my brain could be doing and could be getting sorted for my business that I simply do not do, because I'm thinking, right, well, this is my life. I can't do these events because I can't be there and I can't be present. And again, the imposter syndrome kicks in. I can't have the same life as somebody else because their situations are different to mine. I can't adapt my situation. It's just, it is what it is. It's not a bad thing, but I can't keep comparing myself to people that have no children, who aren't married, who are 20 years younger than me, and, you know, who can go to every event possible because they don't have anybody to be responsible for. And then the imposter syndrome kicks in. Well, why am I in this space? Why am I thinking I can do MCM? Why am I thinking that I fit in this space? And then I look at my products and I look at my art and I think, you're just talking rubbish now, Benita. Just get over it. Get over yourself. So what do you do with all of this? Honestly, I do not have a fix. Anyone who does is selling something, let's face it. But I think the first thing is just recognizing the voice. And that's probably the one thing that's worked for me the most. Not believing everything it says. When your brain tells you you're not ready, you're not good enough, not the kind of person who does this thing, that's worth taking a pause on. Because that voice, Charlie, has a very poor track record of being accurate. Charlie told me that I couldn't be an artist, and I'm drawing an owl right now in front of you with marker pens of all things. It told me that nobody wants to watch me drawing. It told me nobody wants to watch my videos. It told me that nobody wants to watch my vlogs. No one's interested in what I've got to say. It told me that I needed to do better before I started sharing this. And if I listened, I would not have started at all. Your brain is not always on your side, and that's not a personal failing. That is literally just how brains work sometimes, especially ours. The trick is to notice when it's lying and just do the thing anyway. Do it messy, make it perfect later. Rewind. Do it messy, make it better later. I started my artistic journey using a $6.99 art pad with $6.99 WH Smith pencils, now called TJ Hughes. And that's how I started my artistic journey. That's how I learned. That's how I practiced. And it's probably one of the few things in my life that I took the time to get better at. And yes, I still have imposter syndrome all the effing time, but I'm learning to tell it when to shut up. I'm still not there yet, and it's, I'm still not perfect, and I still have a lot to learn. And if you have any experiences like this, I really would love to hear them. And if you have any advice for anybody else who's watching this, please put that in the comments below. I think it's important in my community that you don't feel alone, that that, this is just me, a stranger yabbering on the internet, thinking that I know what I'm talking about. Well, actually, this time I sort of do know what I'm talking about because I've lived it and I've had experience and I've had the counselling to prove it. I think now we've got here, it might be worth having a bit of a pause and just maybe enjoying the process that I'm doing and having a think about all the things that has been said during the video, things that you might relate to, things that maybe you don't relate to. Again, maybe your experiences that you can share. But at this point, I think we're just going to sit and chill for a little bit and enjoy the rest of the process video. And I'm just going to explain my final thoughts near the end. She is a pretty owl, and I'm actually really, really pleased and how she came out. A lot of things went wrong. A lot of things went wrong with this drawing. It was the wrong paper to use with these alcohol markers. But I tell you what now, because I persevered and because I carried on, it came out like a watercolour. The accidental effects that happen, and this is the thing with art, so many things can happen in an accident or because of an accident, and it's probably something that I could never redo because it was an accident. But the way that it finished and worked, and it just looks beautiful, and I'm really happy with the way that it came out. So don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Don't be afraid to cock up. Don't be afraid to make a mess. Put that imposter syndrome in its little box for an hour, 2 hours while you create, and don't be afraid to make a mess. Too often we're told that we have to grow up, but actually the inner child in us just wants to make a mess and just wants to have fun and just wants to sit and colour in and draw pretty shit and just be able to relax. There's no need for somebody to see what you create. So why are you trying to create something considered, air quotes, perfect, when nobody actually needs to see what you're drawing? Why put pressure on yourself when nobody else has to see it? If you sat with me today and I helped you through some body doubling, thank you. There's something really amazing about sitting alongside strangers, even through a screen, friends through a screen, and getting stuff done together. If the imposter voice was really loud for you today while you watched, I see you. It's loud for me too, but we're both still here. Come back and draw with me again sometime, and maybe in the meantime start the thing you were not ready for yet. And I shall see you in the next video.